Happy Kwanzaa Day 2 to all who celebrate. Happy Hanukkah to those who celebrate. And happy belated Christmas to those who celebrate. This is Mostly Major Show, episode 12. We are close to a new year, Mr. Wallace. And New Year's resolutions for our boy Doug Gottlieb, I think, is to win a conference game.
Well, I think unfortunately for him, the December calendar is in like its worst possible phase for him. I believe if my memory serves me correctly, he's currently in the destroy your body with food and alcohol portion of December, which means he must not be doing much coaching. As could be maybe seen or reflected in Green Bay's record this month. I don't know. But yeah, he's in the food, destroying your body with food and alcohol portion, I believe. And I also believe they have a game on Sunday against Purdue FW, whatever that means.
Fort Wayne.
Fort Wayne. Yeah, Purdue Fort Wayne on Sunday. So hopefully the guys are ready. I don't know if the student athletes have subscribed to the Doug Gottlieb mentality, but hopefully they haven't. And maybe they can revive them from the depths of the Horizon League.
Maybe they've subscribed to the Doug Gottlieb Show, his daily podcast.
Well,
Doug, we don't hate you. We want the best for your student athletes.
And even you. I mean, we want you to
and
win.
You.
Yeah, we don't want you to lose, man. Because how cool would it be to be like, yeah, he's in the media, right?
Yeah.
But he's also one of us. So, like, you know, maybe.
Uh-oh. We've lost connection with Darren.
Real quick, before we talk about basketball, how about these bowl games? Have you seen these bowl games? People love to act like bowl games suck. These bowl games have been, and it's not just this year. Like, I mean, yeah, do guys opt out? And sometimes we get a bad bowl game. Yeah, that happens. But like, yeah. I mean, the Hawaii Bowl was like a 4 overtime game or 3 or something like that. Toledo and Pitt last night had another class. They had like a 6 overtime game. Kansas State and Rutgers.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Rutgers folded, but the game was great.
Rutgers really folded in that game. He had like a 20-point lead.
They were.
It's okay. It happens. Welcome to society. Yeah, I will say I have a close relationship with E40, and he is very anti all these bowl games and has been for a long time. But I keep telling him, look, you just got to keep watching because the most crazy stuff happens. Did you see Bowling Green's punter, his arm yesterday?
Bowling Green, a laser
throwing darts, man. Yeah. It's been awesome.
Also had 17 catches and 213 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Fannin will be very interesting going into the draft because I think people are going to have a tough time with the whole group of 5 school thing. But I think I've even said it on the show before. What people fail to realize, there's pros everywhere. If you can play, if the film looks good, there's nothing wrong. But because you can't bat 1,000, you can't hit on 100% of these guys. You're gonna. I mean, if that was the case, we wouldn't have like free agents. We wouldn't even have a draft. We just know that everyone that you pick up is a good player. You know.
Well, unless you're Sean McVay,
then you don't draft.
And the guys that you do draft are really good, but then everybody else is also really good. That's the formula.
Yeah, you don't draft ever, and then you draft for the first time in like 4 years, and you get Puka Nacua out of it, which is
of course.
I tip my imaginary cap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've had some good games. It's always interesting with the opt-outs. Washington State has like 30 players in the portal, and they're playing tonight against Syracuse in the Holiday Bowl. I'm sure that'll be very interesting. Cuse is like 18-point favorites.
Yeah, because I don't think we don't have many opt-outs, and we don't have a bunch of guys in the portal. If anything, guys are in the portal to go to Syracuse. Yeah. So watch out for Syracuse in the next couple of seasons. Navy and Oklahoma is a weird game. That's like crouching tiger, hidden snake, like or tortoise in the hare, in terms of like, just the means of offense in a lot of ways. Although Oklahoma was mostly a running team this year, ironically. So this could just be Army Navy part 2.
Yeah, Oklahoma was a running team because they didn't have a quarterback.
Yeah, Jackson wasn't as good as advertised, apparently.
Yeah, it turns out. Didn't they just get a commitment from John Mateer, the Washington State quarterback? They did, yes.
Yes, they did.
So they got him. They also got Western Kentucky's quarterback. So they'll have a little QB battle, although I think it'll go to John Mateer. Sorry, not Western Kentucky's, Western Carolina's quarterback.
Also the Trojans play tonight.
They do, unfortunately.
Unfortunately for who?
For me. It's been a long year. We may avoid that one.
That is how you guys ended up at 6-6.
Can we talk about this new tape that dropped yesterday or a couple days ago on Christmas of Babe Ruth wishing all the kids of the world a Merry Christmas in 1947, Darren? That's 15 years before Wilt Chamberlain allegedly scored 100 points.
I mean, look, I've been adamant. See, I think people think I'm joking.
Observando.
I really question, I don't think it's crazy because, for one, even with a 3-pointer, we haven't seen someone score more than 81. Well, except the Jack Taylor guy from what school was that?
Grinnell College.
Yeah. Jack Taylor scored, was it 96 or?
But their style of offense was literally just, we're going to play defense on you, and then as soon as we get down the court, 5 seconds within us getting across that 3-point line, we're shooting a 3.
Yeah,
and it was Division III hoops.
So even with that as like a possible, obviously not probably the most optimal, but like as a possible strategy, we've never seen anyone in the NBA in our lifetime score more than 81. So now, will I say it is impossible? No. But I just want to know, how do we have footage of Babe Ruth wishing, kids across the world a Merry Christmas in 1947, and now it's remastered in almost 4K? And we have, there's not even a clip of can I see a reverse layup? Can I see a free throw?
Can we see a picture? A picture. Are there people? There should be people still alive. If you were at that game, say you were 17 years old and you were at that game, okay, that was 62 years ago. You're still alive to tell the story. So if you're out there and you were at that game, or your grandfather, or whoever was at that game, let us know. We want to have a conversation.
We might have to do just an episode where we trek to Hershey Park and just knock on doors. Like, were you there? Is this real? Like, have you seen this? I'm going to show them the photo. Because maybe there's just a game that the NBA is playing with us where, to the world outside of Hershey, they dropped the photo of him holding 100. But in Hershey, they didn't drop it. So if you live in Hershey, there's just a certain group of people who just have never seen the photo, and the whole rest of the outside world does. So it could be some sort of Twilight effect where we go to Hershey, and maybe they've never even seen this picture. So now they think we're people from the future, and it's no, this happened when you were young, and I don't know what you're talking about, and they shut the door.
Central Pennsylvania, there's not a ton of internet and infrastructure, so maybe there's a lot of people still living and using tools and equipment from the 1860s. So
it makes you wonder how Christian Pulisic became the LeBron James of soccer, considering he lived in basically Quaker era
Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Not to be confused with Lancaster, California. Lisa Leslie, my father put me on this story. Apparently back in 1990, she scored 101 points in the first half of a high school game against South Torrance High School. South Torrance was really bad, and she was at Morningside in Inglewood. And, Lisa Leslie, great career, went on to play at USC, like a legend, WNBA, Hall of Fame, all that. First WNBA player to dunk in a game. But to score 101 points in 16 minutes is like a bucket every 19 seconds.
Hold on. We got Coach B calling.
Okay.
Hello? Yo.
We having some technical issues. Oh, you're muted.
Yeah, so he said he didn't see the email, but we worked it out.
Okay.
Yeah, for those of you listening and watching, yes, we do have a guest this morning, afternoon, evening. We'll save the introductions for when he joins. But we do have a guest, and he had to call me real quick and say, "Hey, what's going on?" But false alarm.
We're good. All right. Well, he is in the waiting room. We'll talk more about Lisa Leslie's 101 points in the first half in a high school game in 1990 after we talk to Princeton associate head ball coach Brett MacConnell as we admit him into the party here.
What's up, guys?
Yo, Coach.
How you doing?
What's going on? Good to see you. Thank you.
You too, man. Keenan, where are you working? You traveling?
I'm on the road for a wedding. I'm in Central Pennsylvania, Danville.
Nice.
So,
nice.
yeah.
Did you go to Dickinson? I'm just looking at your shirt.
Yeah. I played ball there, football.
No way. No way.
Yeah.
So a couple East Coast guys wound up in one of the Dakotas. Where the heck were you guys?
South Dakota.
South Dakota. Well, Keenan, his coach went to the dark depths of California to find him. So Keenan is a West Coast guy, but converted East Coaster. Like,
I am.
Wow.
He's one of the rare West Coast guys who probably likes the East Coast a slight bit better.
Don't say that too loud, though. There's a lot of West Coast people that don't appreciate to hear that.
So you're bi-coastal, and then to be in Central, I don't even know. Is that Central America? I don't know where South Dakota falls, but you're diverse, man.
It's a frozen tundra for sure.
Yeah,
especially this time of year.
I have been to 39 states. The Dakotas are one of the 11, two of the 11 that I've never been to.
Well,
I'm not sure I'll get there anytime soon either.
As a recruiting coordinator for Princeton, I feel like you need to matriculate your way over to North Dakota. There's a lot of guys coming out of there that you've probably seen over the past few years. Grant Nelson at Alabama and Trace and Eagle staff who put up 40 against Alabama last week. So
yeah, they have good players. Are they going to wind up at Princeton is a harder. That's harder to try to figure out, I think.
Well, that's one of the things I did want to ask was you're an associate head, but you're also basically you kind of have a stigma around your name. I wouldn't say stigma, just more of a
stigma.
Yeah, not stigma. More of a your thing. You're known for being a recruiter. Even John Fanta mentioned it in the game against Rutgers the other day that you go out and you guys and going out and doing that. Being in that role. How does that maybe shape your perspective, especially being people look at recruiters like, John Calipari going into people's houses and kissing babies and think that that's just kind of everything. And I'm sure there's maybe, I don't want to speak for you, a little bit of that. But for an Ivy League school, it's not just, how good are you at basketball? It's, literally how, can you go to school here and succeed? Yeah. So how does that, maybe change the game for how you do your recruiting and maybe some of the places you end up going?
Yeah. Well, certainly the very first box we have to check is the academic piece. And we do very little without getting a copy of recruits' transcripts. And so it's one thing to tell someone you have a 3.7 GPA. It's another thing to prove it. And those things don't always match up between players and coaches giving us information. So we do our due diligence on the front end. We make sure we're recruiting quality students first of all. But really, I would say basketball's third, because the other piece that's a top priority for us is the character piece. And, really good people, unselfish people, hardworking people are the core of our program. And that's really a major priority for us and something we won't compromise on.
Mm-hmm. Well, you have a guy in Xavier Lee who is, kind of put his name on the national spotlight. And I think, according to our draft insider, Darren Wallace has some NBA scouts and coaches kind of looking at him as a prospect for the future. How do you find a guy like that? Because those guys are so few and far between where they have that balance of elite basketball player just as an individual, but then also the academic side where they can still excel at a school like Princeton.
It's interesting because I had a thought in mind when Darren was asking me the first question about recruiting that I'll tie back into answering your next question here. But I used to think recruiting, Darren was talking about Calipari doing the in-home visits, and I'm sure, Calipari has many, many ways of getting things done and has done such a great job over the years. But I used to think like that was recruiting, like landing a top 100 recruit. And we landed a player named Jalen Llewellyn, a 4-star top 100 guy. Was a great player for us, all league player, scored 1,000 points in 3 years due to COVID. And I thought, man, like this is it. This is recruiting. And since then, what I've come to realize is what I'm maybe more proud of is evaluating some of the guys that are unsung players, right? That are under recruited, that maybe haven't been evaluated, either haven't been identified or have been misevaluated. So Xavier comes to mind, and ironically, it was Jalen Llewellyn's dad, Jalen from the Toronto, Canada area. Jalen's dad, a very well-connected basketball guy, former player at Wake in Rhode Island, who tipped me off on Xavier. This is during COVID. In Canada, it was impossible to find gym space. It was hard in the U.S. It was twice as hard in Canada, maybe 10 times as hard in Canada. So he told me, hey, I've been hearing about this kid, Xavier Lee. He's undersized. He's small. But since they've last played and since anybody's last seen him, he's grown. And so I had film of Xavier from, this would have been, I think, his sophomore year of high school. He was tiny. I think he was, he couldn't have been more than 5'10". I don't want to guess his weight. He might hold it against me, but he was small and slender. But his shooting, his feel for the game, his ability to play in pick and roll, and so taking what I knew that over the year he had grown a bit. Combining it with his skill set, Cordell and Xavier, Jalen's dad, and then Xavier and their family asked me to help connect them to a prep school. So have a great relationship with Perky Oman and spoke to the head coach, Thomas Baudenay, there, and thought, hey, this could be a really good fit for you guys. Turned out to be a great fit. And by the time he got to Perky Oman, we weren't able to go see anyone in person from recruiting from, I think, March of 2020 to June of 21. By the time we saw him at Perk, we were like, man, this kid's pretty good. But still nobody was recruiting him or had offered him. And we were kind of piqued our interest with the high school showcase that June. And then he played AAU in the summer. And that was really it. And we're still thrilled to have him.
And, another really a staple of the program at this point, Caden Pierce, who hit ultimately the game winning bucket against Rutgers the other day. And when you talk recruiting and also just what it takes to be a Princeton recruit, I feel like Caden in a lot of ways embraces that. Obviously we ask you about players, just a disclaimer for everyone listening or watching, Coach MacConnell and I go way back. He was coaching me up when I was like 12 years old at Montgomery basketball elite camp. And he was showing me some two ball handling drills I'd never done before in my life. And then they became like a staple of me trying to get good at basketball. I never got good enough to go to Princeton, but I definitely tried. So anyway, just knowing how much, we ask you about your players and how much you like to talk about your guys because, you form these relationships and they start to, they mean a lot to you. Caden in a lot of ways feels like, the backbone of kind of what it means to be a Princeton basketball player. Can you speak a little bit to just, his impact that he's had at the school and also just, how he's kind of coincided with what I kind of was saying last night, maybe the rise of Princeton basketball, because I think, a lot of mid-majors are getting a lot more pub lately. And especially that run that you guys made a couple years ago to the Sweet 16 really put, Princeton kind of on the map in a big way. And Caden was a big part of that team too. And now he's still doing good things at Princeton today.
Well, first of all, Cade and Xavier are both really high-level students, and we talked about that up front. They both are economics majors, having a lot of success academically. They take a lot of the same classes. That is far from an easy major, right? And there's none at Princeton that are easy, but they challenge themselves and work really hard academically. And it goes back to fit. Like, I think it's a really great fit for both those guys and for our program. But I couldn't agree with you more, Darren, about, Cade at his core, matching what we've always believed should be the core values of Princeton basketball. Super unselfish, team first winner. You go back to high school, his AAU team won the Under Armour championship. His high school team won the state championship in Illinois. I think they were 37-1. Their only loss was to Bronny James. So this is a guy that's had winning DNA, and we could probably get into his family background too. But his approach to practice, his approach to getting better, individual development, team chemistry, leadership, like all the things that make a program great. You need guys like Cade doing these little things, the intangibles, and he's a 10 out of 10, 11 out of 10 as far as all the intangibles are concerned.
Mm-hmm. So I'm interested in the ever-changing landscape that we continue to see with college sports, college recruiting especially, and now that as that continues to change with some pending litigation that's on the table right now, how do you approach all of this? And maybe is it easier that you're at an Ivy League school where you can just go in and say, look, this is what we have to offer? Obviously, the reputation precedes everything, when you have that Princeton P on the shirt. But, what does that look like over the past couple of years as you've tried to navigate how everything has changed with transfers and now the JUCO rule that could be coming into effect this next year? It's crazy.
A lot going on. I'll tell you, the first thing that I think is a great strength for us at Princeton is we haven't taken a transfer since 1989. So when you're recruiting a kid, and it's probably a smaller minority of the recruits, but there's a group of kids who really want the 4-year experience, that don't want to transfer, that want to pick a program that feels like family, and don't want to be looking over their shoulder every year. Hey, like, I just earned these minutes. Is there going to be a better player, a transfer come in, a 5th-year guy come in and take my spot? So I think when you come to Princeton, you're coming in with a group of players that are in your same recruiting class. You're going to grow with them for 4 years. You'll have 3 years with the guys ahead of you, 3 years with the guys below you, and there's not going to be a transfer taking minutes that you've earned from behind you. So I think that's a really great strength of ours at Princeton. Obviously, the academics speak for themselves. I think we have a really great culture. There's, through the years, the alumni connections and really the cohesion throughout each class that's come through Princeton is really special. It's really unique. The other thing that I think is an advantage for us, and I think about Cade Pierce's recruitment, like, there's fewer and fewer programs that are really thoroughly evaluating high school players. And where Xavier was maybe coming from Canada and wasn't seen as much and kind of burst onto the scene late, to me, I'm still shocked to this day that Cade didn't have a higher level recruitment. I told you, he played on the best Under Armour team with Duke commit, Gonzaga commit, like you name it. Really a high level AAU team. His high school team was great. So I'm still shocked because I thought he was a sure thing. Came in as a freshman for us and played 30 plus minutes. I do think we find little kind of holes in the system right now that we can take advantage of.
Mm-hmm. Just to talk about you for a little bit, I know you don't. I may ask just so the people listening and watching can just learn more about who you are. You worked your way up. I mean,
Kieran, I'm nervous, man. I'm nervous.
It's a good thing. Where you've been basically living in the gym ever since, like I said, since I was, in middle school. You have essentially literally worked your way up, grinded your way to, you could say near the top, but I mean, I think, we all know what's in the future for you. But speaking about just how you got to where you're at, grinding your way to being, an associate head coach at Princeton University alongside Mitch Henderson and, being a part of a winning basketball program now for years. I mean, I think since the Ivy League tournament started, and I want to say maybe 2016, I think, the only winners have been, I think, you and Yale. So as far as just how you got to where you at in your position in the world of basketball today, what do you reflect on? How did you get there? How do you, when you sit back and you look at, where you started and where you're at now and how much success you've had as a coach, as a recruiter, just how do you reflect on just your journey to get to this point?
Was Delaware Valley College, Division III school. I'd been a manager at Rutgers, and I left the interview, called my dad. I said, "Dad, I got the job." He's like, "That's great, that's great." I was like, "It pays $2,000." He was like, "A month? Is that per month?" "No, Dad, that's the year's salary." So you had to work it like a full-time job while also, working camps and clinics and hoop group and, anything you could do to make a little bit of extra money on the side. But I'm really proud of, kind of the path that I've taken because I've been at different levels. I understand, that there's a hustle required. There's a grind required for somebody like me to reach Division I basketball. And I think it certainly made me a better coach, a better recruiter. When you're in Division III and Division II, specifically Division III, there's less recruiting rules. So you could be out every day. There's not a recruiting calendar. Division I, there's live periods, there's dead periods, which is great. It keeps you in a sort of a healthier work-life balance. But in Division III, you could be out every single day. And so part of that was to make some extra money, and part of that was because I loved what I was doing. But that built my whole foundation for recruiting contacts, evaluating. I was able to evaluate guys. I would predict, all right, who's a Division I guy? Who's a Division II guy? Who's a high major, mid-major? And so that experience I got was crucial to my development, and I'm proud of the route that I've taken.
I want to talk about your relationship with Darron, going all the way back to 12-year-old middle school Darron. What was
he looked exactly the same minus the beard. He was identical, but just the beard was only. He was a big, strong dude, man. Actually, like I always loved working with Darron.
Did you see Division III or maybe Division IV? I don't know.
It was too early to. I think Darron. I think you were in sixth grade. Which I guess matches up with being 12. So at that point, we're just like excited that he's going to be an important player at Montgomery. And by the way, Darron, like think about the growth of that program and you and some of your teammates helping to create the culture with Coach Grundy, which is a very special culture and a family, and now they got rings to show for it. So
yeah, we couldn't get one, unfortunately. My junior year probably had the best team, in my opinion, that we had at that point since 2011 was the first year that, or 20. 2010, I forget. Yeah, 2010, I think, was the first year my head coach, Coach Grundy, won a state championship at Montgomery. And then in 2014, I was a junior. We were 27-2, and we lost in the county semis, and we lost in the state championship by 2 points. And I remember we lost. I sat on the bench and I cried for probably like 10 minutes. I didn't move. I was like, I couldn't believe it. I didn't play particularly great either, so that didn't help. And then like I was asking my mom, like, I don't want to go to school tomorrow. Like, don't make me go to school. So she let me, but she was so gracious. My mother, who pushed me to go to an Ivy League school, was so gracious to let me stay at home for that extra 2 hours, and then I had to go into school. But that was, I mean, yeah, you've seen the growth of the program from, I mean, we were never really bad, but I mean, now it's just like Montgomery is like playing in showcase games. Like I think they played in they played Hudson Catholic, where Javon Quinterly, Todd Pettiford went to high school on opening night, and then they're playing at Roselle Catholic, which is like, and Coach MacConnell, you obviously know, if you're playing at Roselle Catholic in the regular season, you're probably a big deal because they host a lot of like the showcase games. So he was definitely a part of the early renaissance of what is now Montgomery basketball. But this leads me to my question, actually. You're being a Jersey guy, being around New Jersey for as long as you've been, even as you've taken on other ventures. So Keenan and I, we like to banter about the coastal wars and such. And I'm Mr. New Jersey. Like, I love hyping up New Jersey. Like, I root for everybody from New Jersey. And I try to tell other people, New Jersey basketball players are they're a different breed. So with all the New Jersey basketball players in your backyard, what have you noticed? Like, is there truth to the narratives that surround certain players based on where they're from?
Yes, I think there certainly are. I mean, it's not 100% true in every scenario, but I'm as biased as it gets, Darren. I'm right there with you. I'm Mr. New Jersey, and I'm maybe we'll talk about the Princeton Rutgers game, which we're coming off of here. But bit of a battle for New Jersey. We just had that win on Saturday, which was an awesome way to head into Christmas. You talked about John Fanta. He said it was a Princeton Christmas. I didn't get to listen to the whole call, so I'm gonna have to go back. But he's about as good as it gets. But I'm all in on all things Jersey, and Princeton. We recruit nationally. We've had really good success in New Jersey, but we have to recruit nationally because you need to recruit a wide pool to find players that are capable of playing here that can also get into school here. But anytime we can get our hands on a Jersey guy, I just love the toughness. The culture, the competition here is great. You're playing great competition. It's a really densely populated state. It's easy to play the best players in the state. So I'm always going to go with Jersey guys when I can.
Does that have to do with growing up in the cold? You have actual winters out on the East Coast as opposed to out west where, it's sunny all the time. You're playing hoops at Venice Beach in December. Like, you don't get to do that at Rucker Park or anything like that.
I don't know. I think we're kind of like middle of the road. I mean, you guys were in the Dakotas, so I think we're kind of average when it comes to the cold weather. But I think it's just a place that traditionally has loved basketball. And I think there's a long list of historic programs, coaches, players that have come through here. So it's just a proud tradition of basketball in Jersey.
Yeah, shout out to the Hurleys.
Yeah.
So you mentioned the Princeton and Rutgers game, which I do want to ask specifically about because it was a great game. I should have went. I wanted to go, but I had to take care of some things. Unemployment means you got to do some odd jobs every now and then. But that game was awesome, and John Fanta was great. But going into the game, Rutgers obviously this season entered with a lot of hype, and I just being honest with you guys, you guys started off pretty strong this year and then hit a little bit of a rough patch. Lost a few consecutively, and we're kind of trying to maybe get back on the right track. And then lately, you beat St. Joe's. Lose a tight one to Furman, who, Furman's been a good team this year. Come back home and beat Monmouth. And now you get to play Rutgers, who, again, preseason, I think they were number 25 in the AP poll and all that stuff. Talk to me, what was the game plan? How do you prepare for, Ace Bailey and a guy who I think is playing himself into the number one pick, Dylan Harper? Those are two of the not just the best freshmen in the country, two of the best players, period, in the country. And a lot of people probably went into the game thinking, oh, there's no way Princeton can hang. And they still think that way. I don't know why, but they probably still think that way. But I mean, I would argue you guys dominated in a lot of the ways that, the high majors dominate the mid majors. So what was the game plan? How did you execute it? And just what were some things you saw in that game?
Darren, it's funny that they still don't believe, because last year, and I won't name names, but there's, a Montgomery, a member of the Montgomery family who I heard after we beat Rutgers last year that was saying, I can't believe Princeton beat Rutgers. Blah. It's like we were coming off the Sweet 16. Should you be that shocked that a team coming off the Sweet 16 won their opening game? So now 2 years in a row, I hope nobody's surprised anymore. The game plan, very simple. Stop the 2 lottery picks. Right? It's simple. It's not easy, but it was simple. It was straightforward. And I thought Harper was incredible in that first half. I think he had 17 points in the first half, and I'm like, man, there's going to be another one of his 35s. But I thought the second half we did a great job. We talked a lot about guarding him as a team. We put different guys on him, and to hold him to 5 points in the second half was key. Was probably the difference in the game. Bailey's an incredible shot maker, and you got to try to contest all of his jump shots. He makes incredibly difficult shots. People are comparing him to KD or Carmelo. And you kind of have to prep the guys early. You can't get discouraged, because he's gonna make some unbelievable shots. You just got to do your best to keep making them hard and play the percentages. So I'm proud of the effort that we had there. I thought we made a big play. We needed to make a big play after maybe not executing great down the stretch, but Cade to make that play at the end. I thought Xavier was incredible throughout the whole game, 11 assists. And proud of the team effort. I think we've started to find ourselves a little bit the last few weeks. And you mentioned the St. Joe's game, and then this one against Rutgers. So I like where we're headed.
I was going to say you mentioned it kind of quickly, but there was a lot that happened in a short period of time in that game. Yeah. I mean, up with the ball, you throw it away, and you mentioned Ace Bailey's shot making. Ace Bailey comes down, and after you had led and really just needed to make some free throws to win the game, you make it tougher on yourself. Ace Bailey hits a 3, up 1. You come down, did you call a play? Did you just say get it to Cade? What was the emotions on the bench, on the sideline, and how did it translate to on the court? Because there was a lot that happened in a very short amount of time. And Rutgers still did have a chance to try and win it at the end, even after Cade hit the shot.
Yeah, you're right. A lot that goes into that. I mean, first of all, we had a timeout left, so credit to Coach Henderson. We call very few plays throughout the course of any game. We call very few plays. We really try to teach the guys how to play and let them make reads. And so the ball was inbounded to Cade, who, was surrounded by 4 really good shooters and, had some confidence that he was going to be able to play one-on-one. And we love Cade playing one-on-one. We love the matchup for him. We love it most of the time when he has the ball in his hands, that good things are going to happen. And he made an awesome play. One thing that I'm not sure has been talked about from, all of the media attention that we've gotten, and certainly Cade and Xavier have gotten, but the play of the game may have been after Cade makes that layup. Certainly that was probably the play of the game, but the underrated play of the game was as Dylan Harper's driving the ball down the court. By the way, coming off heroics and a win over Seton Hall the game before, Jackson Hickey picks up the ball and did a good job on him one-on-one. But Xavier Lee comes over and moves into his gap to be in help position and really slow that drive down and force it to be a long contested jump shot. So I thought that was a huge play and something we certainly were focusing on, right? We talked about guarding Dylan Harper as a team. So to make that play in crunch time when it mattered the most is really makes a coach proud.
That environment, just watching that game, it really felt like almost like a state championship game. right? And obviously 2 in-state teams playing against each other. But, all the fan base, it's right there. Everyone's from New Jersey. And the way that the crowd was just hopping, like, what was it like being there on the court? Did you take a moment to kind of look around after that final buzzer and be like, this is awesome. Like, it's awesome to have this type of success in state like this?
Yeah. It felt almost like an NCAA tournament game combined with a road game. So I don't know, maybe a road NCAA tournament game. The arena was awesome. The atmosphere was awesome. Darren probably knows this, but I went to Rutgers. Both my parents went to Rutgers. My dad worked in athletics at Rutgers for a really long time. So this rivalry has been important to me for a long time. And ironically, my dad works for Rutgers football now, so I'm a little bit heartbroken over the bowl game loss yesterday. But my dad got to be at the game, which was special for me. I have a lot of friends and even maybe family on the other side wearing red. Not my dad; he was wearing orange. But guys that I went to school with and people that I go way back with, were there. And this game is so important to so many people around the state. So it's really special. And I think like leading up to it, like the moments leading up to it, you take it in, you soak it up. But once the game starts, you're really focused on the task at hand. And then when it's over, you get a chance to really celebrate it. And it was really cool to celebrate that with the guys.
Last one for me, Coach. I just want to know what is it like when, I just wanted to ask, because I feel like, in our conversations we have and, our big group chat, I think the guys that we kind of surround ourselves with are typically the guys that, we root for the underdog. We get hyped when the perceived smaller guy gets a win. But I'll ask you, what does it feel like when you are the little guy who beats, the big dog? You beat, in Arizona, you beat, in Rutgers, you beat, some of the teams that you've beaten in the past few years and are trying to change the narrative of what mid-major basketball or Ivy League basketball can look like. So as opposed to what is it, I see what it looks like, but I've never felt it. Like I've never been on that sideline. I've never been in those huddles. What does it feel like as, one of the leaders of the team?
Well, thanks for bringing that up because we're 6-2 against high major teams in the last three years, I think. So it's there's nothing better. I mean, being the underdog and getting a chance to take on the big dogs is awesome. Being the 15 seed against Arizona, being a 15 seed against Missouri the next game, like those are moments you dream of in big environments and big atmospheres, big stage. I think you could probably imagine like there's really not much better than that. And it's really it's our goal throughout the regular season to get the opportunity to do more of that in the postseason.
Last one for me, John Fanta. He's a Cleveland guy, but he seems to have really adopted the New Jersey kind of lifestyle and everything. Is he one of you guys? Is he a New Jersey guy now?
Honorary New Jerseyan, zero doubt. Honorary New Jerseyan. I think he's as good as it gets for college basketball. I know you guys probably look at things through a different lens and probably have a lot of respect and appreciation for his professionalism. But he's as good as it gets. And we actually sat next to each other on a plane back to Newark. And then he helped me find my car at the airport, and I ended up driving him home. So he's Jersey through and through.
Yeah,
that's awesome. He's awesome. I love the energy that he brings, and he's like the perfect amount of bias toward like Big East because he obviously covers the Big East for Fox, but then like New Jersey basketball too. Like he'll wear like the Big East suit and things like that. Like it's just. Any game that he's on is fun, and turning the game on last week and seeing that he was doing that game at Prudential, that was like the icing on the cake of a really awesome game.
Yeah, he's got great knowledge of both teams. I thought his final call was awesome. I didn't get to listen to most of the game, but I did hear the final call. And, it's funny. I was just thinking about this the other day. I think maybe because the Eagles did both. Ian and Noah did the Netflix doubleheader, right?
Yeah.
Darren and I know Darren. He's close with Noah and the Syracuse connection, and all that. And I think I grew up listening to Ian Eagle, who's awesome. But at what point, how many years down the road, right? If we're predicting the future, Eventually, Ian hangs it up, and I mean, Fanta's got to do a Final Four, doesn't he? I mean, he's on track, man. I think he's as good as it gets. And something made me think about yesterday, like how cool would it be for John Fanta to be calling a Final Four someday? And I think he's headed there.
Yeah, I see it coming. He's like, sometimes you can just tell with like some guys when that you see them doing play by play, I guess, earlier. And he's got that juice. I love watching John.
He was with Jim Spanarkel, who's a Jersey guy. And Spanarkel's done some. Actually, I think Spanarkel and Ian did our Sweet 16 game. So we're hitting all of like the greats, right? We're hitting all of them today, which is awesome. And by the way, you guys do an awesome job. And Keenan, I've been following Darron long enough, and I'm so proud of all the great work he's done. And I know he's got a big break coming, but I've been seeing you a lot because of that, and you do a great job also. So keep up the great work, man. I'm really honored that you guys would have me on, and let's do it again soon.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Coach.
Yeah, keep winning.
That's the key.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Coach. Appreciate the time.
You got it. See you guys.
Brett MacConnell, Princeton associate head coach. Has a nice ring to it when you know a guy for as long as I have. He's really he taught me a lot at a young age. Like I won't say like I probably had a better chance at maybe being a collegiate athlete in like football, but in terms of like where I got, I think my work ethic for basketball, because I really didn't understand like how to train for basketball until I met him, and he really showed me, the intensity you need to prepare with, even at, being in middle school. Like you just have to have a certain type of intensity, a certain kind of push, or you're never going to get better. Like I didn't understand the importance of like dribbling the ball hard or like, running, game speed, when you're better to catch passes. So nothing that he's achieved at Princeton and, wherever he ends up becoming a head coach, like none of it surprises me. He's well on his way to being, you talk about all-time great broadcasters. He can be an all-time great coach. I think Brett is great.
It's always cool to see that with college basketball, especially because it all starts at the mid-major levels, right? Like those are the guys that are next up, and you can always kind of tell, like, over the past few years, we saw what Darian DeVries did at Drake and how he built them up into a team that was constantly in the NCAA tournament, constantly winning the Missouri Valley, and now he's at West Virginia, right? Like we can see that. You can almost predict the future with basketball because you see that type of success. And for a guy like him, he's in a perfect spot at Princeton where, they go out and they get the right guys. And, we've talked to a lot of coaches on this show, and I think the coaches that have, I guess, the right perspective are those coaches that work at schools where they have some of those limitations on the guys that they can get, right? And I'm thinking of like Johnny Tower of a St. Thomas team who legitimately could go and win the Summit League this year, could have done it last year, could have done it the year before, even with the dominant Oral Roberts team that went undefeated, right, and 21-0 in that season. So it's always interesting to talk to those guys, and it's always really cool too because him having those New Jersey connections, like there's a ton of talent there. And I just wanted to point this out as well. He is Unc to you as you are Unc to Ryan Curry.
Yeah, I just don't coach. So like
That's
maybe
true.
I'll get to broadcast an Army game.
There you go.
Army SID, if you're listening.
Yeah.
I'm like 2 hours away, man. Let me get involved.
That's all it is. Yeah, no, it's always good to chat with college coaches.
We should ask him if he thinks Wilt scored 100. Because I think we got to start asking our
have to.
if they think.
Shoot him a text right now. Find out.
Yeah. I'm gonna
see what he thinks.
Yeah, because it's become our thing. So now I feel like now it has to just become a thing for everyone that comes on the show. Yeah,
I mean it's an important question. How much credibility does pre-David Stern NBA
have? Pre-David Stern? So the NBA didn't exist before that?
In my opinion, no. David Stern made the NBA what it is today. He
and then
brought the NBA Finals to live TV. He told the guys to wear some suits, dress up, because it's nice. You know, when you see a coach on the sideline and he's wearing a suit, it gives you the kind of feel like this is something big. We're at the show, right? It's a Friday night at the show. And that's hoops.
I think that the dress code should be weeknights, suit and tie. And then if you want to go a little more casual on the weekends, or even like, you know, the Christmas Day game, I wouldn't mind that. Like, I think that's what it should be, because that's kind of what my high school coach would do. Like, if it was like, you know, Tuesday, we played on Tuesday and Thursday, so he would always have, you know, suit and tie. But then on Saturday, him and the coaching staff would wear like the jumpsuits, but that would only be for Saturday games. So I feel like that could be like a similar, you know, because I think a lot of coaches have gotten very comfortable with that. So like they just prefer like the comfort of not being in a suit. Because I think, you know, for as much as we do say how much we prefer it, and I prefer it, but there's even sometimes, I mean, we have to wear suits for our jobs, but like sometimes I don't want to wear a suit. You know what I mean?
Sometimes
so
it's nice to get on the podcast in a hoodie, you know? Like
yeah. So that's, I can't blame them for just, hey, if they're going to let me do it, I'm going to take advantage. But yeah, I think that would be like a fair like compromise in terms of just like, you know, reminding the coaches of the professionalism that it takes, but also, you know, giving them that luxury of, you know, you're playing on a Saturday or Sunday. Okay, you can wear a quarter zip.
True. But the suit is nice. Wear the suit, throw the jacket, sweat through the suit, the Tom Crean just kind of soaking through. Yeah.
Pick your nose and then rub it on the jacket, a la Jim Behan.
Speaking of gyms, Jim Larinaga, respect.
Yeah.
Happy trails.
Yeah. It's funny though, because he's citing, and I like, as much as I respect these coaches, I can't say, you can't blame NIL on, I can't compete anymore, because Jim Larinaga ended up at Miami after he, you know, became the man at George Mason. Yeah. So he lost an opportunity where he was doing well and left it for a better one.
I think it's that the NIL situation and what's happening with, I mean, we just talked about it with Brett, like the ever-changing landscape of recruiting. It's new to these guys, and they haven't been in that position before. I mean, you know, they have, right? The Adidas bagman and everything, right? FBI case, like we've seen it, but it just hasn't been to this extent where they are now the ones that have to figure out how to navigate this, right? Usually that was the athletic directors, let them deal with it because they're dealing with the contracts of the coaches, right? They don't have to worry about all that. And yeah, coaches would jump ship all the time. I mean, we still see it all the time. It's crazy. But that's just how it works with coaches. But now it's new with players, and these coaches just don't know what to do. Because I think, especially for college basketball coaches, all they want to do is coach hoops. But you don't get that pure college basketball. Except what?
Except Doug Gottlieb.
We're not picking on Doug. We are. Rightfully so. Yeah, so it's just new to them. But that's another one. That's another one that bites the dust because of that. Jay Wright, Jim Larinaga, Nick Saban was one. Like all these guys are like, I can't do this. I'm backing out. Let's go work in TV.
I mean, I get it. Like things do change and it is different. I just don't like some of the framing of the scenario. Like the student athletes are in the perceived wrong, or they're hurting something. Like, be honest, student athletes have been largely exploited since the beginning of college sports. Like they don't, like, how can this hundreds of billion-dollar school, or if you want to call it essentially what it is, a franchise, how can this billion-dollar franchise. They can sell my jersey in the bookstore. They can, prior to 2010 or maybe 2009, they can put me in a video game with somebody who looks like me. They can, put me in the programs. They can put me in these, in these school pamphlets.
They can put you on billboards across the state.
Yeah, they put me on billboards. They can put me in commercials.
Yeah.
And I know they were getting like stipends before, but it's night and day, a stipend versus being actually compensated for what you're worth, for what you can bring to a school. I mean, like I've talked about this before. This is my mom. No, you're fine, Mom. Trevor Cooney's jersey went quadruple platinum at Syracuse, and this was pre-NIL. So imagine if he could have actually made some. So it's like you can't blame the kids.
Do you remember how many people were wearing Doug McDermott jerseys or Jimmer Fredette jerseys?
Yeah,
like those things went triple platinum at Darty's, right?
Yeah.
But they got nothing.
Yeah. So I think it's just only right that I don't blame the kid. I get the jokes when some 6 point per game player is going to walk into coach whoever's office and ask for $1 million NIL. I think that's hilarious. But at the same time, I don't blame them because it's these kids get marketed like they're the coup de grace. So I think they deserve to be compensated as such. So I don't blame the kids for wanting to get a bag. And it's funny though, maybe it's odd though, because I would argue that the problem at a school like Miami isn't the kids wanting something better. Clearly, someone is holding out in the situation because I don't think there's a shortage of money at the U. So
no, and the U's biggest booster, who was imprisoned for that whole FBI probe because he was providing money to athletes, just got his sentence commuted, so he's free, and he's hanging out with a ton of cash, ready to help the University of Miami. Alex Rodriguez is ready to help the University of Miami, right? They named the baseball stadium after him. He didn't even play there.
I just loves being rich and doing stuff.
Look, if I had that type of cash, I think I would make USC my fantasy team too.
I probably want to be like a partial owner in every league if I could. There's a guy who played for the Mariners, the Rangers, and has ever since he retired just wanted to be like immortalized as a Yankee. The Yankees won't do that for him just because he's steroids. Mind you, everyone was taking steroids, but they villainized Alex Rodriguez for it. And now he's the owner, a part owner of the Minnesota. Like, this is a guy who's on TV, who's been filmed on TV, hitting walk-off homers and hugging Anthony Edwards like they just won the NBA Finals. Now he wants to give money to Miami. Like, I guess when you're rich and bored, you just do stuff to just keep yourself entertained. And I guess that's entertaining for them.
That's pretty entertaining, honestly. Yeah. And Miami baseball is pretty good. So yeah, they have plenty of money. I think it's just a lot of these coaches like Jim Larinaga said, he was just exhausted beyond a point of return where it's too much to learn at this point. It's like they just got thrown a ton of technology and they had to learn how to figure it out.
Yeah,
but these guys are old, right? Like that I respect them coaching into the 70s and doing that, but that's tough.
Yeah. And like you said, I mean, it was a bit like they just went from like decades of a closed Pandora's box, and then literally just said, okay, and they opened it, and it was just like, whoa, we can't ramp it up, we can't figure it out. It's just okay. So now we're gonna go from zero to anyone on your team can get $1 million and figure it out. So I think the introduction was a bit much.
I've been saying this since it happened, but I think the NCAA and Congress, for some reason, which was involved in this whole thing, and basically saying, go, have fun. They were the ones that opened the box, and the NCAA gave them free rein with the decision. But I didn't fully understand why they said, okay, anybody can transfer and not have a year penalty like they used to do, where you had to sit out a year. So you were redshirting that transfer year. and allowing players to get paid at the same time. Like they essentially created free agency without creating free agency, but they created free agency by doing that instead of like it should have been one or the other. It should have been free transfers, but no money, or money and no free transfer. So then you still have to make that decision as a player. Like, wow, I just came off a year where I scored 24 points per game, and now I want to leave Omaha, for example. Frankie Fiddler, right? A guy like him. I want to leave Omaha. Well, he could have. He would have just had to sit out a year and had to wait until next season to play. And that would have probably changed some boosters' minds because they would be like, well, we don't know. Also, it's a 2-year process as opposed to instant gratification where we're going to get this guy. He's going to be an immediate impact player. Like you don't have that anymore if you create that year gap that was still there before all this, right? Because you could get excited about transfers coming in the past and, undergraduate transfers, right? Guys that had not graduated yet. And I think that was fine when they put that rule in where if you're a graduate, you can transfer for free and go play that next year. So there's an academic incentive there, which I think is important because as Jerry Rice tells us in a NCAA commercial, very few athletes go pro in sports, so go pro in something other than sports. Thank you, Jerry Rice, the greatest wide receiver ever, for telling us that. I'm sure he does a lot with his bachelor's from Mississippi Valley State. It was very interesting, the whole setup that they did. And, certain schools like Princeton kind of get away with it because they're Princeton. And you're getting guys who have aspirations that are beyond basketball, but they're also really good at basketball. Stanford is another one that's kind of had that type of success. Those academic schools.
Stanford is always in college football 25. They're always making it. They're beating me out for so many, not a bunch, but just like a couple of key recruits I want. And I'm like, how does Stanford? And they don't even be good. They'll be like 7-5, and I'll be whatever in 1 or like 11-1, 12-1, or just almost won an Natty, and I'm battling with Stanford for recruits, and I'm like, why? But then that's that academic prestige, man, the academic prestige. Because in high school, I did have I had a couple of sit downs with the Dartmouth and Yale coaches for football, and they were just like straight up saying like, look, there's not very many football players that come to our program and graduate and aren't making 6 figures within 2 years. Like, it's just I don't like it's just that network, man. Like if you're a Yale man, if you're a Dartmouth man, if you're UPenn, Stanford, whatever, like that stuff means something. So, there is a lot of truth to it.
And UPenn, they got some shooters out there too, so. All right. I think that's all I have.
Goes political.
Anything else?
Coach MacConnell doesn't believe it. He said what? I said, hold on. We talk every week about something.
Okay, this is about Wilt Chamberlain.
Yeah,
scoring 100 points allegedly. Yeah, this is going to be a weekly question because this is important stuff. We're talking to the greatest minds in basketball, and you know who we need to get on the show is former North Dakota hooper Phil Jackson. He played at the University of North Dakota.
Yeah, but he can't even tweet properly. He just clanked his rings on the keyboard and hit send, and I don't think he ever tweeted again. And then he ruined the Knicks. If we got Phil Jackson, I don't even think I'd say anything nice to him. I would just curse him out. Like, dude, why? Why'd you do that to me?
I would say so many nice things to him.
Years. Well, yeah, you actually have nice things you can say to him. I have nothing nice to say. Do I need to remind you of his very first move as the executive?
Of the New York Knicks?
That was so great. I saw that live. I was watching that live, like that while it was happening. I was rolling on the floor.
Stephen A. Smith.
Yo,
His
that
very
was-
first move as executive of the New York Knicks is to sign Lamar Odom, who is on crack.
Max Kellerman's like, he just go there. But that's like, of all the things Stephen A. Smith has said, that is like the most, I couldn't agree more. Like, are you serious with this Phil Jackson stuff? You want to sign Lamar Odom?
The best part was Stephen A. Smith, right before, maybe 2 or 3 minutes before, said, well, I'm going to let you speak because I need to stay calm about this. And then all of a sudden, he just exploded. Incredible stuff. Look up the tape if you haven't. Stephen A. Smith on Phil Jackson. That's good stuff. Lisa Leslie, 101 points in the first half of a high school basketball game in 16 minutes. 52 points in the second quarter, Darren. Do you believe that or not? In 8 minutes, 52 points.
I don't know. Like, was she not playing defense?
I don't know.
How does that happen?
I don't know.
They must have been pressing, and she was at the top of the press. So they would get a steal and then just pass it up to her. That's the only way. Because, like, Cheryl Miller, her game, there was footage of it.
Yeah.
There no footage of Wilt Chamberlain.
It was also 100 points over the course of 32 minutes for Cheryl Miller, not 16 minutes in the first half.
Yeah. So, like, Coach McConnell says, I have no reason not to believe it. So he doesn't have his tinfoil hat on.
Interesting.
Yeah, Wilt Chamberlain propaganda. But I don't know.
Maybe that's good. Maybe he doesn't need to.
Maybe there's a sign. Like, when you're able to teach at Princeton or coach at Princeton, you absorb the intellect of a Princeton student, graduate, whatever. So maybe he's laughing at us because he's actually smarter and better than us. So maybe we need to look in the mirror, look into ourselves and ask, why do we question Wilt Chamberlain?
There's no way. They didn't have the 3
I don't
point
believe
line.
it. I need more evidence. Where's the evidence?
I need to do my own research.
Interesting.
Oh, yikes!
Also, we are sub 1 month for the Flippers reuniting in one location at the same time in Breckenridge.
Yeah, that's going to be awesome. We'll definitely record a podcast there and give the people an insight of what that's like. There's going to be a lot of good basketball games on while we're there.
Oh, you already know that's
in the heart of conference play. Come on,
conference play on a Saturday.
Sure,
Saturday conference games. That's some of the
wacky. That's the best stuff. All right. Anything else? USC. I'm on the East Coast.
Last thing I want to say.
USC kicks off at 10:30 Eastern time tonight. Oh, Mount St. Mary's. Go ahead.
Mount St. Mary's retired Jim Larinaga, so they should just put that on their website, or one of the social media admins needs to capitalize on the opportunity to say that.
Hang a banner.
Mount St. Mary's forced Jim Larinaga to retire.
Congratulations to the Mount.
He lost to Mount St. Mary's. And he said, "Okay,
I forgot about that."
Yeah. Something's not going right here. We're losing to Mount St. Mary's. I'm coaching at Miami. This is it for me. Vontae Davis.
He said I'm making enough money to retire to this penthouse overlooking the ocean.
Hey,
farewell. Yeah, into the sunset. Jim Larinaga, congratulations on an excellent career. That Final Four run was awesome.
We're thankful for that.
It was a fun Final Four run, but the worst part was that they had to take down USC in the first round, and that kind of killed me. But that's okay. That's okay. USC is a football school, as we'll find out tonight. Doubtful. All right. That's it for this episode of Mostly Major Show. If you want to find more, follow us on social media, especially Twitter, X, Mostly Major. It's fun. We live tweet basketball games.
Goodbye, everyone. Someone sponsor us.